All right, so yeah, all right, we're live. All right, hello everybody. I am Alan of the Rockies. I have the Duke, the owner of the Pirates, and our fearless leader, and I've got Cardinals Jeff. Say hi, guys. We're gonna break down some of the bigger, more noteworthy trades of the ABL so far. We already the Padres and I did one show already, but we're gonna get a little more in depth into some of the bigger deals and see what these guys think of some of them. So we handpicked a few. We talked about it a little bit before going live and stuff. We picked out a few that we wanted to talk about. The first one being, damn it, I don't have it sitting in front of me. The Isaiah Green deal, though, right? It was the Isaiah Green to the Pirates. Right. Okay. Yeah. Ended up being sure. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it was the 21 round 2.1 pick going to Pittsburgh that ended up being Isaiah Green. Uh, and man, I killed all my tabs when I was setting up this Zoom. I swear. Uh, yeah, this. Well, I posted the StreamYard. Um, I, yeah, I don't have one offhand, but I can get one. I think. See, that's the thing. I don't know if it streams live to YouTube, like, or is there like a delay? Yeah, probably. I think that's probably the way to go. Yeah, let me. Okay, yeah, it is live. So we are live on YouTube. I see this now. I will get the link going. No, I don't want to post it to. I don't want to give that to you guys. Thankfully, this is not something I have to worry about like screwing up because only. I'm getting some feedback of my own. I'm getting like some loop back of my own voice occasionally. Yeah, I think I'm picking up somebody else's audio in my computer now. I don't know how this happens. Let's see. All right, yeah, let's just holy cow. What a should have started an hour early. I should have started by myself so I could get this stuff down. All right. So for Dodger Joe, who maybe Tony is watching as well. For Tony and Joe, uh you guys know my face already. I'm Rocky's Allen. I've got the Duke from the Pirates. I've got Cardinals Jeff. We're not going to break down every trade like me and the Padres did, but we're going to go over a handful of ones that we feel were pretty impactful or pretty major. We're close to 100 trades already in this league, so obviously we're not going to go over all of them. Jeff, if you want to start off on that first one, the pirate deal for the draft picks, while I get some of this other stuff I can look at. Right. Multiple position guy, you know? Now, Duke, did you definitely get who you wanted with that pick? Was that your target? That's fair. Right. Sure. Yeah. Damn it. That's what I was afraid of. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, geez, now I see I wasn't watching the damn, yeah, no audio on Jeff. Yeah. I don't really know how to solve that off the top of my head. Yeah, that was good stuff. Yeah, that was that was good stuff. Get to sit back and let you guys talk and not sound like a doof. Of course, nobody heard it. Oh man, let's see. Let's see. On the StreamYard, when I go to the audio settings, I don't have a whole lot that I can actually do. I have like my own, like the settings on my own internal laptop microphone, and then the speaker, which I don't think will do anything. And then there's like echo cancellation and a box for automatically adjusting your mic volume. I don't have a whole lot that I can. Uh, yeah, when I go to guests, there's nothing there to like do with my guest audio. Um, Damn. Well, the thing is, I can hear my guests. I can hear you guys, but viewers cannot. I don't think so. Because the only thing I can invite like anybody to do is like watch the broadcast. So he gets my audio. It sounds like he specifically said you guys. So I'm guessing he does, of course, hear me. But let's see. Yeah, when I click on your guys's like the Zoom screen in StreamYard, the only option it gives me is to either edit the name of the screen or stop the screen. It gives me a link to send out. I'll throw that up in. Yeah, I think it's the same one that I already put up there. I sent Joe the StreamYard link just to see if maybe that would work. Because I can see on his comments, and it looks, yeah, Jake is in there too. I can see that they were making the comments from YouTube. Huh.
1 second.
So yeah, when Jeff popped up, I clicked the add to stream button, and it did throw him up there. Jeff, do you hear me right now?
I hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yeah.
Let me ask Joe if he can hear me.
There's Joe. I would just get Joe in on the stream.
Good. I don't hear Mike actually.
Yeah, let's try that. Yeah, get out of Zoom and hit that link in the Discord, and that'll bring you right here.
You have to log in to StreamYard. And I don't see you.
You don't see me?
No.
Yeah, my light just went off. What the hell? I think it had something to do with me exiting Zoom. There we go.
Yeah,
We're
I
gonna
see you
get
now.
we're gonna get this figured out.
I guess we should have just stuck with StreamYard all along.
Yeah. I thought this was like specifically just for the broadcasting aspect and not actually like setting the stuff up, but I've only used it that one time, so
So Joe and Jake, can you guys hear me?
I just added Duke to the stream.
I can hear you guys.
All right. Actually, I hear you now better than I did before.
I like to have the we can see the comments and stuff now too.
Can we get one of those guys to confirm they can hear all three of us now?
I think YouTube has the power of easy editing, so I can cut a lot of this off. All right, Joe has
says he can
audio
hear
now. Okay,
Yeah.
so all right, well, take 3, I guess. So for the couple guys watching, we're rolling it back. Rockies Allen. I've got the Duke, the commish, the owner of the Pirates. I've got Cardinals Jeff, NL Central rivals. We're gonna talk maybe a couple handfuls of trades, maybe not just one handful, but a couple of the maybe 8 to 10 of the 100 trades made in this league so far. And we're going to kick it off with a trade of the Pirates. He sent the first overall pick in the second round of the 2021 MILB draft. He sent Scott Kingery, who is second short eligible, and Cal Quantrill, who should have a spot in the Indian rotation, maybe, to the Tigers. No, God damn it. I'm so flustered by this shit not working. I can't even talk straight. Oh man, let me start that over. Yeah,
I was going to send
Pirates,
an update. Are they watching
ahead.
on YouTube, or are they watching on which link? Which link should they use to watch?
Well, Joe was in here. He was in StreamYard, but now it looks like he's on YouTube. So it seems like YouTube is probably working fine, and no reason not to send him there, I guess.
I could step through this trade if you want, Alan.
Yeah, man. Yeah, please. I don't think I'm ever gonna get it right. So just.
So this trade was Duke's Pirates sending the first pick of the second round, and I'm sorry, he was receiving the first pick of the second round, along with Scott Kingery and Cal Quantrill from the Tigers, and he was sending them Zach Wheeler, Luis Rengifo, and a 10th round pick. And just my preliminary analysis, now that you guys can hear me on this one, was I think that Duke actually made this trade like right as the pick was coming up, because there was someone on the board that he really wanted. It ended up being Isaiah Green, who was involved in a big trade like right after this, because or maybe right before, I don't remember, but he's a pretty highly regarded dude. He was in the Lindor trade, right? But
yeah,
regardless, during the auction when Duke won Zach Wheeler, he was kind of immediately expressing some remorse. He was kind of talking people into outbidding him, which kind of gave me the impression that maybe Duke thought he wasn't someone that he really wanted. Maybe he thinks he's a little overrated. But I myself like Zach Wheeler quite a bit, and I was pretty surprised to see what seemed like Duke's best pitcher being sent away right before the season started. But as I've gotten time to look at it, I realized that I've started to understand Duke's approach a little bit, and he's got a really deep team. He's got a full bench full of quality players. He's got probably the best minor leagues in the league, and the fact that he got the first pick of the second round really helped towards that. I think all of Duke's minor league picks, all 20 of them, ended up being in the first 6 or 7 rounds, which means he's got better minor leaguers than the rest of us, and that's pretty impressive. Cal Quantrill and Scott Kingery, they're both decent players. They both have a lot of upside. Kingery, I think he was hurt a good portion of the year last year, and he's got multi-position, and he's a highly regarded prospect. He could end up doing big things. I think Duke actually traded him recently, but he was a pretty big get at the time. Cal Quantrill, of course, is going to be in the Indians rotation probably, and the Indians do magical things with their pitchers, as we all know. Luis Rengifo is just a throw-in my opinion. I know he's got multi-eligibility, but he just kind of filled in a little bit when Andrelton Simmons got hurt. I'm not even. I guess Simmons is gone, so maybe he has a job, but I'm not a big fan of his. But all in all, myself, I give the Tigers a B+ because they got Zach Wheeler, and he's a good pitcher. He'll definitely eat a lot of innings in a points league that's huge. And I give Duke a B or B- because it moved him towards his goals, which is building a strong minor league and building a team with a lot of depth.
I can't disagree with that. I gave the Tigers a B. I do think Wheeler, on its face, is the best player in the deal. So you can't like ding the team too much that they got the perceived best player in the deal. And I don't know anything about what he turned that pick into. Nazim Nunez, I don't know anything about the guy. The pick that he got, the round 10.11 pick. That guy's a dart throw just like anybody else in the 10th round. I gave Pittsburgh a B+ because if you look at the trade just how it happened, that's probably the B. But if you look at that, he did flip Kingery into obviously something else that he likes. Maybe that takes it up to a B+, but you don't grade trades in hindsight based on what happened later. So probably just keep him at that steady B.
Yeah, I'm not going to grade myself, but I'm not going to disagree with you guys. I think Wheeler was definitely the best player in the trade. I actually like Wheeler quite a bit. I think he's going to pitch a lot of innings this year, and I think his Ks last year were really low. He's never been like a high K guy, but but they were exceptionally low last year, which is why I think I got him for the price I got him in the draft, was just because of his low K rate last year. But I like him. But coming out of the draft, I was in a place where I wasn't trying. I had a lot of SPs, and I was in a place where I was trying to fill holes in my bench, not necessarily fill empty roster spots. So I didn't have a good backup at short and second, and I'm rolling with Willie Castro at shortstop. So he's young. I'm not 100% sure in him. So I wanted to add somebody like Kingery to give me a good backup plan. So Kingery was a target of mine in the draft. It didn't work out, so I went after him afterwards. And like has been mentioned by both of you guys, I've since flipped him for Dylan Moore, who, I like Kingery a lot. Moore's a little bit more salary, but I like that Moore gives me a little more eligibility in the corners, in the outfield. So for me, that's really what it was about, was just kind of making my bench a little stronger. And I really like Isaiah Green. And I think I'd already, by that point, picked up Luis Matos, and I can't remember who else I picked up in the first round, but it was another outfielder. But I was like, oh man, if I can pick up one more pick here, I can grab Green too, who is my target even before the draft started. So that's kind of where I was coming from with that trade.
I think even though it didn't involve like huge names, it was still an interesting deal because of the picks involved and the kind of the swapping of the multi-positional guys, and then of course because you ended up using Kingery for another deal later, it maybe it doesn't hold as much weight if that doesn't happen, but yeah, I think both sides get a good piece of the deal. He gets an arm that he needs. You got a pick that you really liked, and hopefully that it turns out. We have no idea how a lot of these picks are going to turn out, but a pretty good deal for both sides.
Yeah, this is like the definition of a win-win, in my opinion. Yeah. Like we both got what we wanted, and we were happy. So
nobody's going to look at that and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe he made that deal. I can't believe he made that deal." You guys kind of scratch each other's back a little bit, and hopefully the young guys work out, and if they don't, it's not going to kill anybody, so all right, the second one we wanted to look at involves Tony's Miami Marlins and Jeff's Cardinals. And Jeff, I would like to get your thoughts on, I like the guys you dealt away. I like Moose quite a bit, having first, second, and third eligibility, and I love Elieser Hernandez. I think it was maybe Sam that talked up Merrill Kelly. I could be wrong, Sam. I'm sorry if I am, but Kelly was like a top 10 point per game pitcher in the short season?
That was me talking him up, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, it was you.
Yeah. That
was Jeff. So Jeff, did you we don't know what the pick is going to turn into. You got the 2022 Marlins first round pick, and you got Nolan Arenado. Talk me through that deal on your end.
Sure. I think coming out of the draft, Tony from the Marlins was right away trying to sell his pricier assets, and he had some really good ones too. And he dealt Jordan Alvarez just before this trade too. But I started talking to him about Nolan pretty much right after the draft, just kind of getting his temperature on it. I believe in Arenado. He was hurt last year. Prior to last season, he was one of the top players in fantasy, a perennial first rounder, who was worth honestly more than the $41 that he went for in this draft. But if he plays like he did last year, he's not worth that.
Right.
But I like all three of the players I traded to. I drafted them. I have them on a bunch of teams. I play in a lot of leagues, and Merrill Kelly and Elieser are two of my favorite late round pitchers to go after, and I believe in both of them, honestly. Kelly's a pretty high injury risk because he had that thoracic outlet that killed Chris Archer and some other pitchers, but the Diamondbacks believe in his recovery enough to pay him a bunch of money already this year. But the negotiation was pretty long. with Tony. We talked a long time about this. Right away I was happy to make the Moose for Arenado trade. You know, I like Moose too, and even his price is really reasonable in this league compared to the other third baseman. I think he's below $20, but at the same time he's like 33, I think, and he's, you know, I don't know if he'll be the Moose of old. I'm not sure. You know, I like him, I believe in him, but Arenado is a very clear upgrade in my mind.
Yeah, huge upgrade. Even if, I mean, you got to worry, I guess, like anybody else with him about the Coors thing, but he's still Nolan Arenado. You know, I don't think he's going to be a guy that lack of Coors absolutely kills. The splits that sometimes are pretty damning when you look at him, but
right,
you know, he's still Arenado.
To me, with the league formatting, I'm not even worried about the Coors thing. It's like I have Nolan for this year. I'm going to get whatever he puts up, and there'll be a decision at the end of the year whether or not to keep this guy. He's $41. That's kind of borderline in my mind. You know, if he's the Nolan of old, I'll keep him. If he's not, you know, he'll be gone. And to me, the reason why I made Tony include the first rounder is because of that doubt of whether or not I would keep Nolan. You know, I didn't want to trade three players that I believe in, who are all three probably keepers, and have absolutely nothing to show for it after this year. So I asked for the first round pick, and I think this was the first time that anyone had pulled a first rounder in. And seeing that Tony was dealing all of his assets, you know, at the time I was thought that this would be probably a lottery pick. In the Constitution, it says that the bottom 14 teams, I think, go into a lottery for the top pick. It's not a straight worst record gets it.
Right.
But seeing that Tony was dealing his assets, I thought there was a pretty good chance he'd fall into the bottom 14. But actually, his team has turned out pretty well and pretty well balanced. And I'm not super convinced that he will actually be in the bottom 14 at this point. But I'm still hopeful, of course, since I have his pick. But I hated letting Eliezer and Merrill go. But in my mind, I think this was the exact moment when I decided that I was going to kind of go for it a little bit in 2021. I ended up making some trades after this that I think kind of primed me for this year. And it all started with getting Nolan.
What's your take on it, Duke?
Oh, so much to say about this one. I am going to kind of build off of Jeff's last comment, because I noticed this too. This is where Jeff came out of the draft with like he had a full roster. His team was really well balanced, definitely built for this year and beyond. And then I saw this trade and I was like, oh, Jeff is going for it in 2021. And then of course, after all these trades, then I bet him the pizza for the division. But yeah, I noticed that as soon as Jeff made this trade, coming out of the draft, I thought, the Central was going to be pretty tight for this year. And then after this trade, I realized that he was going for it. But, I think obviously Jeff got the best player. That's you can't really debate that. So anytime somebody comes out of a trade and has the best player, that, they're going to have an edge, I think, generally speaking.
Absolutely.
But I also think that Tony's team better after this trade. He did not have anywhere near a full roster coming out of the draft. He had a lot of high price players that I don't think he really wanted. Just based on a lot of the comments he's made during and since the draft.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So this was the trade I think Tony had to make his team better. And I really like the pieces he got back from Jeff. I think Moose, I think, is like $17. Kelly's $4. Hernandez, I think, is $6. Those guys could all be extended for multiple years.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That being said, just to kind of move on, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I think I graded Jeff with a B- for this trade, just because he got the best player. And the key for me, especially being like a spec guy, is he got that first round pick next year, which when I saw that, I was like, oh man, that was a huge move by Jeff. He got Arenado and he got a first round pick next year. And I gave the Marlins a C+, only because he gave away such a great player. and that first round pick. But ultimately, I think both of their teams are better because of this trade. So this is another, win-win. If Tony had been able to like sneak out of that without the first round pick, I think I would have upped his grade to like a B or a B minus. But that first round pick, especially for coming from my preference with, liking the prospects, that was a steep price to pay in addition to Arenado.
It was, but I like how you said like that this was, especially from how quick after the auction these trades happened. This on his face was a trade that Tony like needed to make because he had said he got kind of stuck with like 6 guys kind of all at the same time. And I don't know if he said none of them he wanted, but it seemed like most of them he didn't really want. And then he makes the one player for 3 guys that he's definitely going to start, every day. I gave Tony a B minus. I gave Jeff the B, and then like in parentheses I put pick with a question mark and maybe a B plus. So because you don't know what that's going to turn into, but the potential there. It's a first round pick, regardless, even if it's not a lottery, it's still a first round pick. It's going to hold some kind of future value.
It's possibly Kumar Rocker for $1. That possibility
there you go.
exists.
Yeah, that's how you can look at it. So yeah, another trade where the guys kind of help each other out. Jeff takes a step towards going for it now in a really tough. If you remember the NL breakdown that me and the Padres did, we said the Central was far and away looked like the toughest division, and it hasn't. This trade didn't do anything to help that. So you guys are going to be scratching and clawing the whole year. It's going to be fun. Let's look at now. Kind of this one was a really big one. The first, I guess, huge name. I don't know. There's been some bigger names, but Mookie. It's hard to get bigger than Mookie. I mean, we go from Arenado being dealt to Mookie being dealt, but the Cardinals take Mookie and his $60 contract with Kevin Kiermaier and the now well-traveled Dylan Moore. Send him to Seattle, which you could say that about a lot of teams sending guys to Seattle. I think everybody's been through the Pacific Northwest so far. $2 cap. Whit Merrifield, who can play second, center, or right. Old but still very valuable JD Martinez, and old but still very valuable Zach Greinke. Let's start with Duke on this one. Give Jeff the last word on his own trade. Let's go with your thoughts on this one, Duke.
This might be the biggest trade of the year so far, just because it's Mookie. Yeah. Other than Cole, I don't think there's been a bigger name traded thus far. Certainly not a bigger salary. I don't think anybody more than $60 has been traded yet. So this deal was kind of the opposite of the last one for Jeff, where he was taking in a star and trading away a bunch of pieces. And in this one, he traded away the star to bring in a bunch of the pieces. So it kind of makes sense for Jeff. And just from talking to him offline, I knew that he wasn't like he loves Mookie, but I knew he wasn't super keen on his $60 salary. And certainly
Mookie, is different than just Mookie. Yeah.
And extending it, an extension on a $60 player, that's pretty tough to. It's pretty tough to have a balanced roster if you're going to be extending a $60 player beyond a year. So
especially in a league with 30 teams. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And since he had Arenado, I think he kind of had to make this move just to kind of balance his roster out. So from Jeff's perspective, I understand why he did it. The Mariners got the best player in the deal by far. Mookie's like a top 5 player, and he's young, and depending on, the Mariners have a lot of high-priced players now, so I'm not sure he's going to have some big decisions to make.
Yes, he is. That'll be fun too.
Yeah, next off season. So I'm not sure if he's going to be able to keep Mookie, but he gave up a lot to get him. I mean, Merrifield, Martinez, Greinke, those are all, Martinez obviously had a down year last year. I heard some stuff about he was one of the players really negatively impacted by the lack of having in-game video.
Yeah, not being able to go to the tunnel and watch his last at-bat and stuff. Yeah, him and Javi Baez, I think, were the 2 guys I really heard that a lot about.
So, I mean, who knows? But I think it was a good gamble. I can't imagine Jeff getting a better return for Mookie than what he got, and I think he's flipped at least maybe just Greinke since then. But
Yeah.
Overall, I think it was a win-win for both teams. I gave the Mariners a B- because they got the best player. And Kiermaier's no slouch. He's certainly going to be a contributor in a 30-team league. And you guys know I love more, so I gave the Mariners a B-, and I gave Jeff a C+ only because he gave up the best player.
Gave up Mookie.
But yeah. I think his team was better because of it. So, I'll caveat it, his C+ with the fact that his team's better, and he's since flipped Greinke for, a really good player too. So
right, and that's kind of what I wanted to ask Jeff is Jeff, did you? Because none of these guys are young, is he 30? I think maybe he's 30 or 31. Being the youngest guy. Did you acquire any of these three guys with the intention of flipping them later?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that I would necessarily keep Greinke or necessarily JD Martinez. Honestly, I would definitely was planning on keeping Witt. Just to give a little background, I regretted buying Mookie in the auction pretty quickly. He was $60, and that was full $10 cheaper than Tatis and Trout and the other guys. And I convinced myself I was getting the bargain at the time, and I was pretty excited when nobody outbid me until I saw, that probably about 24 hours later that same $60 could have gotten me like Lance Lynn and Ozuna, or Lance Lynn and Whit Merrifield, for example. And just the knowledge that I could have two, top 40 players instead of one top 5 player, in my opinion, in a 30-team league is a better way to spend that money. I don't know if they would admit it, but I think all the teams that spent more than probably $50 on a player probably regret it. But regardless, Witt was a target. I spent a long time looking at him in the draft, trying to see if I could afford him. His fantasy points per game the last 3 years were all pretty impressive. Even in this format, he's kind of known as a roto guy, but he's pretty solid in this format as well.
He's kind of a quiet stud. Yeah, I like him a lot.
Yeah, and his positional flexibility, of course. So honestly, there's probably only 2 teams in the league I could have traded Mookie to. I started to look through it, and Seth and the Mariners were one of them. The Rays were probably the other one. I talked to them a little bit about it, but Seth's really great to deal with. I think he's actually in the room right now. He's obviously a nice trading partner because everybody keeps trading all their players to him.
Everybody's traded with him.
But yeah, I mean, I originally reached out to Seth about Mookie, and I was trying to get Kershaw and Witt basically, and I didn't make it very far in that direction. He had no interest in trading Kershaw, but we kind of kept talking over a couple of days, and eventually, he reached out to me and mentioned that if I was willing to throw in Dylan Moore, that maybe we could make some progress on this, and kind of talked for a little while. Eventually, it came together, and I'm really happy with this deal. I know actually, and there's this site, this other Discord that Duke and probably some other people in the league are in called what the hell is it called? Prospects Live, and it was they have a trading block where you kind of grade the trade room in there, and I posted this trade in there, and I just got slaughtered. It was like 15-2 or something, where people voted for the Mookie side of this deal. But
even any of the caviats, like he's $60. This is
the money was included in there. So
wow.
they still trashed my side of it, even with that.
People see Mookie, man. They see you giving away Mookie, and like it's vision gets clouded. Like you're automatically lost.
But to me, I know for absolute certainty that I was not going to keep Mookie after the year. And now I got Witt back. I ended up spinning Greinke into a Rosarina, and I think both of those guys I'll probably end up keeping.
I mean, when you say when you say you weren't keeping Mookie, I gave you guys both a B+ because I like all of the players. I mean, I don't really like Kiermaier, but who cares? He was a toss-in, but I like all the players in this deal. And if Seth has clearly he's out of the gates. He's going for it now. He's said as much. The deals that he's made reflect as much. if he wins, then it looks great for him. I mean, but if, as we've said already, he's going to have some tough decisions to make, especially if if it doesn't work out. Mookie's going to be one of those really tough decisions because as he goes, the rest of your roster has to change if you're going to keep what will be a $62 player next year. So it could really work out for both of you guys. Hopefully it does. I guess I don't know how much I want to honestly say that I root for deals to work out for everybody because I don't want everybody getting better than me. But
I think the next deal we're going to talk about is involving you. So
yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of being a pleasure to work with Seth, if you're in the room, Seth, you have a deal in your inbox for me. So feel free to accept that before we're done with the show. I'd be happy to see that.
Oh, geez. Seth himself, if you take like Seth and Tony and Frank, those guys have made more trades just with them than probably all the leagues I've been in combined in the last couple of years. It's really an incredible amount of activity happening in a short amount of time.
I had a feeling there was going to be a lot of trading in this league, but I've been blown away.
Yeah, I cannot believe it.
Yeah, especially with the draft. I mean, it's still insane. The number of trades going on for the draft, but even just the number of players. It's January.
Yeah, there's guys are going to have rosters that look nothing like what they paid for. But hey, I mean, get your guys. However you're going to get them, get your guys.
People were trying to trade in the auction right after they picked one guy. They're immediately trying to trade him.
So. Okay. So number 4 on the list here was the trade that I just recently made with the Braves, Jake's Braves. I sent previously acquired Mackenzie Gore, Jeter Downs, the shortstop, maybe second base prospect for the Red Sox, and Zach Pop, who is listed as a Diamondback, but I think he's actually a Marlin. And I sent them to the Braves for $60 Garrett Cole, $3 of Fab, and Andrelton Simmons, who's probably going to be my starting shortstop. And whichever one of you guys wants to go first, I'll kind of sit back and I know what I think of it already, but I'd like to know what you guys think.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So I love this one for Colorado. To me, it's your pitching is right up at the top of the league now. You have a rotation of Max, Cole, Gallen, and Sixto, and those are 4 just absolute studs. And assuming they stay healthy, I think they're gonna win you a lot of money, man. So
it's a big if,
yeah. But you'll be faced with some salary decisions with these guys too at the end of the year. I'm not alone in that boat. I doubt you'll be able to keep them all. But
don't think again.
But all the same, I think that you got a real nice deal on this one. I do love Jeter Downs. I'll say that. If he is everything that he could be, this could really work out well for Atlanta. In this league, prospects, if they hit, and you have them for cheap for a long time, that's the way to really dominate this league for years to come. That's why Duke's doing what he's doing with stocking up on prospects. And I get it. A player like Jeter Downs could be your starting shortstop, and you could just pay him $1, $2, $4. Just pay him practically nothing and build your roster around him if he hits. So I understand the value in a player like that. Mackenzie Gore, on the other hand, he's just too pricey for me, honestly. At his price of $17, I think, or
$29.
Yeah. I can't swallow that personally. To me, these really pricey prospects like Mackenzie Gore and Julio and Luciano Kalinick, their owners are probably hoping they don't come up this year, and which sounds kind of crazy to say. But if those players don't come up this year, then they can leave them in their minor slots. They're prospects, and you get the full. They're basically free money in next year's draft. You get the full 260, and they don't count towards it. Whereas if they do get called up this year, then they're subject to inflation, and they do count against your cap. So if I were the Braves, I'd be hoping Gore doesn't get called up, which sounds absolutely crazy.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah.
But all the same, I would give this one an A- for the Rockies and a B- for the Braves.
So, the only thing I'll add to that, obviously Jeff and I have different strategies and philosophies when it comes to dynasty baseball, which is why I think it's good to have us both on here at the same time. I think that obviously Cole is, he's one of the big three. He made your rotation probably one, like Jeff said, one of the best rotations in the league. That's going to be tough. Like, I am not going to want to face the Rockies in the playoffs. That's bad news if I draw the Rockies in one of those playoff matchups, because assuming those guys are healthy, that's a lot of points to have to overcome with those four guys. So it's a great deal for the Rockies. On the flip side, I think Downs is probably going to debut this year at second base. I mean, he's already better than Chavez, who's I think is slated to be the second baseman for Boston. So you're gonna be getting some production from Downs this year. And honestly, I know Gore's $29, but look at all the other pitchers who are $29 or more, and Gore is potentially an ace. Like, there's only like one or two, maybe three pitchers in the minor leagues who you can legitimately look at and say, this guy's an ace. And Gore is one of those guys. So, there obviously, I think there was maybe some issues going on with him at the alternate site last year. I was surprised he didn't debut last year, but
they called up everybody. They called up everybody but him. It seemed like.
Yeah, I mean, they called up Ryan Weathers to pitch in the playoffs, and not Mackenzie Gore. So,
right.
So I think that's what that's what the Braves are kind of counting on, is that Mackenzie Gore does debut, and if he does debut, like, if I'm the Braves, I want Mackenzie Gore to debut in like May or June. The worst thing that can happen is they bring him up for a cup of coffee in September, because that starts his the way the Constitution is written, that starts his clock as far as inflation. The nice thing about these prospects that hasn't been mentioned yet is, because when the year they're called up, it's their year zero. So you have that year, their year zero, and the next year before you have to decide on extending them. So right. That's the nice thing, is you basically, if he comes up early, you get 2 years of that prospect without having to worry about making a decision on a long-term extension following that second year, the year 1 year. So I think, that I think mitigates some of the issues that Jeff was talking about as far as the Brave side of this deal. So, that being said, I would probably give it the same grade as Jeff. Definitely the Rockies got the best player, Garrett Cole. It makes the Rockies rotation is a bunch of studs. That's going to be tough to go up against. And then as far as the Braves go, I think a B- is fair. I like those prospects. I mean, Zachary Pop's like a Rule 5 guy, so at least you'll be getting some production, assuming they try to keep him on the major league roster. But Downs and Gore are both studs. They should be debuting this year, hopefully early, if that's what the Braves should be hoping for, and get the most out of them that you can this year.
Yeah, I obviously like the deal for myself. I mean, I didn't have any intention of trying to trade for a Garrett Cole when I saw he was available, and I was kicking the tires a little bit. I didn't start down the road expecting to land a $60 contract or a Garrett Cole type player, but the more we talked, I started getting the feeling that maybe this was possible. And full disclosure, I'm on the SP Streamer Discord, and I asked those guys, and with all the caveats, the dollars, this is a 30-team league, what do you think about this deal? And it was overwhelming that I would be dealing Gore at the worst possible time. Like, you want to wait and let him throw in spring and let guys see him and like get excited and all this stuff. I said, man, if I'm not going to deal a Gore for a top 3 starter, then what am I dealing him for? Like, what? I'm not going to deal him for $75 Trout. I'm not going to deal him for $75 Tatis. If I'm not going to use him for myself, if I'm going to use this guy as a piece, at least I should get one of a good arm back. And it's a lot of risk. You know, I try to be risk averse in most of my drafts. This is a different kind of league. I do have a lot of risk on that staff, but you know, clearly I'm a team that's going to try to go for it this year as well, and I'm going to be trying to do that with my pitching. So,
no, Cole's not risky, man. He's as far from risk as you can come with a pitcher.
you know, the 6-0, he's had some shoulder stuff in the past. You know, Scherzer's 36 or 7 or whatever. Arms are inherently risky. You know, there's no doubt to that.
But now you got the beast who. I mean, I think DeGrom's more of an injury risk than Cole. Even Cole's he's on a good team. He's going to get wins. He's going to get innings. He's going to get tons of strikeouts. To me,
I've never been a Cole owner. I kind of that maybe factored into it a little bit. I never take him early enough in like a snake or anything, and I don't want to spend that much on him in an auction. So maybe that was part of it. Like, you know what, I'm gonna nab Garrett Cole.
I mean, there's only a handful of guys in the league who could potentially be the number one points earner in the entire league, and Cole's one of those guys. So,
fair enough. Yeah.
And just in the comments there, Mark says that he wouldn't expect Downs this year. That's fair. I mean, you can't. Who knows when they're going to debut? Like I said, I think he's already better than Chavis, but maybe with what Boston has going on with their it's not a full rebuild, but whatever they're doing in Boston, maybe they want to keep him down for now.
That looks good. I think his bat's going to play. Like he's only played at AA, but he's hitting competition much older than he is, and he's hitting them well. He looks like he's gonna play. All right, let's move on a little bit. Enough talking about the Rockies. We've got the deal that then the recently acquired Zach Greinke to the Cardinals is then flipped, along with Robbie Grossman and Mick Abel, who I believe was just part of the 2020 first-year player draft. I know he's like a very recent top draft pick. Sent to the Orioles for Randy Arozarena, one of the more divisive guys of the offseason. Duke, what do you think about Randy Arozarena? You're not a Cardinal fan.
Jeff knows I'm about to like rip him right now. We've talked a lot about Arozarena, Jeff and I have, and Jeff is on the Randy train, and I'm not yet. Like I could be aboard. We'll see what happens this year. But this is like, for me, this is like the small sample size red flags are going off like crazy with Arozarena. So for me personally, I think that was a lot to give up for a player who we're not like remotely sure about. That being said, he could explode this year and hit 35 home runs and steal like 20 or 25 bases. This is like the ultimate high risk, high reward player. So I can see why Jeff wanted him and was willing to give up that much to get him back, because this is like a potential league winner that Jeff traded for. So I'm very risk averse especially when it comes to spending big money, and he's not cheap. I think he's like $29 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So I'm pretty risk averse when it comes to spending a lot of money on players.
He's 32.
Jeff's willing to take those 32. Jeff's willing to take those risks more than I am, so I can understand why he did it. And I was being in the NL Central with Jeff, I was happy to see like Greinke leaving, and Grossman's kind of like a throw-in. He's going to be a contributor in a 30-team league, but nothing special there. And Abel, I mean, from what I've read and heard about Abel, he could be the best pitcher from the 2020 draft class, but we're not going to know for like 4 or 5 years. So, because he was the first high school arm picked in the draft, I believe. So,
He's still 19.
What's that?
He's still only 19 years old.
Yeah, so he's young. We're not going to know for a while what we have with Abel, but he could be the best. So, so I gave the Cardinals a B minus because like I said, Arozarena could be a league winner if he turns into what Jeff hopes he turns into. And I gave the Orioles a B because Randy with the Orioles has a pretty solid team. He's got a deep bench, and I could tell when he made this trade, he was just kind of plugging holes that he felt like he had with his team. So they both made their teams better. Well, I know the Orioles made their teams better, and Jeff could with that trade that could win him the league. So yeah, I think it's a win-win, but there's obviously more risk on Jeff's side.
You pretty much echo my own sentiments, and even as a Cardinal fan, Arozarena even kind of came out of nowhere for me. I don't know how much I buy into it. He hit in the minors, the little bit of like data we have on him in the minors. He did hit, he actually drew walks at a little bit better rate than he did in the small sample size that we saw from him. But the power is there, the speed is there. He doesn't strike out a ton. He was an OBP guy in the minors. He OBP'd 382 in the short stint. But can he do it over a full season? He's 490 PAs is that's what he's topped out at just at his young career so far. And that was when he was 22. So, we don't know what we're going to see from him. The skills are obviously there. The prices, for me, it was a little much. I went a little bit cheaper in my outfield, except for Lou Bob, and I admit that I got stuck with him. $32 for Arozarena was just a little too rich for my blood. I was interested, but once he started getting up there in the mid-20s, I bowed out immediately. I hit the pass button on him.
It was too rich for my blood too. I didn't pay for him in the auction, but like season dollars are different than auction dollars.
Absolutely, yeah. I gave you guys both a B. I think it's probably going to work out for both. I had St. Louis as a potential B plus just because if Arozarena does do over the course of a full season what he showed that he can do in the short season and then the playoffs, the guy's going to be a monster. He's going to be a potential 5 category monster. So and
I see a couple comments here.
Sure.
Any chance Randy still faces suspension? From what I heard, no. There's zero chance of suspension. It's kind of been settled. The father of his girlfriend or whatever that he pissed off didn't press any charges. There's going to be nothing coming out of that apparently. And Joe's saying Randy's not the next Albert Pujols, and that's true. But I would say that watching Randy in the playoffs, to me, when he came up to bat, that was a feeling that I haven't had since watching Pujols. Like I had to watch every time he was up. I was excited every time he was up. I'm like, something magical is going to happen every time this dude came to the plate. And I have not had that feeling since Albert, honestly, as a Cardinals fan.
What that reminded me of? It would remind me of when the Cardinals were playing the Astros and Carlos Beltran. You could not throw that guy a pitch without like a gap or double. And sometimes you float around. That's what that reminded me of.
You mean when Beltran was on the Astros and just destroying the Cardinals?
Yeah. He couldn't get him out.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think he's going to do the same thing this year. I don't think he's going to live up to that same hype. But I mean, what if he does? What if he is Mookie Betts coming out of nowhere? And to me, I gave up some. This was my first offer to Randy. We didn't negotiate at all. I just kind of looked at his team and I'm like, his pitching could use another good arm. And if I take Randy, he's going to need another outfielder. Here's Grossman, and I probably better throw in something decent to put it over the top. And that's where I threw in Abel. But to me, Abel, like you said, he's a 19-year-old kid. He's 3 to 4 years away. A lot can happen to a pitcher in 3 to 4 years. We have no idea what this kid's going to be. He could be good. And Greinke, I like Greinke. I got him in the deal that we talked about earlier with Betts, but I like my other pitchers better. He's probably about 5th or 6th on my pitcher chain on my team. So
He's on the downside of his career, clearly. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, I have Urquidy and Erod, and I like those guys better than Greinke. So I'm pretty happy to get Randy. I think it makes my team more exciting to watch and exciting to root for. Randy's just exciting to me. He makes fantasy baseball fun to have Randy on your team. If he doesn't work out, then it'll be a 1-year experiment. You know, if Randy was coming with like a 6-year contract right now, and all I had was the playoffs to go on, there's no way I make this deal.
Yeah.
But I got 1 year to see what he is, and if he is everything he could be, then he's not a bad deal at this price, and I'll extend him. If he's not, then it'll be a 1-year show, and maybe I gave up too much, but time will tell.
Well, I mean, if we widen the lens a little bit and take a step back, you essentially turned Mookie Betts into Whit Merrifield, JD Martinez, and Randy Arozarena.
Right.
Which you know, like you said earlier, when I got $60 Mookie and I looked and I could have had, you know, player X and player Y each for 60, you basically did that and turned Mookie into 3 really solid players. So I like that deal a lot, taking it into like full context.
I think one of the trends I noticed with all the trading is that it's most of the trades have, and obviously this is my subjective opinion, but most of the trades seem to be just kind of swapping star players with similar salaries around between teams. And Jeff's been one of the few GMs who's been able to like actually swing trades where, you know, star players being traded for multiple pieces that help a team. There haven't been a lot of trades like that, which kind of surprised me. I thought coming into especially with how many teams were coming out of the draft with so many empty roster spots, I thought for sure that they were going to be trying to trade their like $50, $60, $70 players and flip them for like 2 or 3 or 4 players to fill some of those empty roster spots, but that really hasn't happened. So that's really surprised me so far in the offseason.
Yeah, not yet, at least. I think everybody is still kind of stuck on wanting the value that they paid in the auction. They kind of want that back in return. And I don't blame them. I mean, it's tough to spend that much money on a guy and then have to sit out big chunks of an auction because, you know, I mean, some of these guys, it was their first auction. Some of them, you know, just jumped the gun a little early because that was the market at the time without realizing, man, we got a couple more weeks of this to go. It's going to play out a little bit. And I agree that I thought we would see more of these kind of deals where it's like 1 for 3 or, you know, 2 for 4 or something like that. Guys really looking to fill these holes. But instead we're seeing guys trading for a bunch of fab dollars, and we're going to see an absolute massacre in the first run of fab. So that's going to be, we're going to do a whole other show just on the first fab run because it's going to be so wild.
Right.
Yeah. Joe just said he thinks one of the reasons that hasn't happened is because those who filled their teams value the depth. And
well, not everybody is Dodger Joe. You know, not everybody is super deep Joe and super deep Pirates and super deep Cardinals and the Yankees and the Tigers off the top of my head. And we didn't all do that. There's only a few of you guys.
I'm not super deep anymore. I traded my depth for upside.
Yeah, nice, Joe. Yeah, we know you're super deep. We know you have great value. Damn it. In my NL West, yeah, that's like I have to combat value just with like brute strengthening. You know, you're getting my way in the door and then just hoping that's good enough.
I mean, we don't know what approach works best in this league, in this format. You know, we all can guess. We all could look at Seth's team and look at your pitching staff and look at Joe and Duke's depth and be like, you know, that's impressive, but we don't really know how once the head-to-head matchups start, how things are going to fall.
That's very true.
There's so many, and it's only going to get more interesting the further along we get in this league with extensions and prospects starting to promote with cheap salaries. Like there's a lot
when that salary really starts to matter, then you're going to see guys really having to like go through the machinations of, do I want to make this deal? How is it going to affect me long term? Because right now it kind of is, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does and it doesn't, but it's a little more devil may care, I think, with the money right now.
Right. I think the trade deadline will be madness in this league too when it happens
Yeah, it should be
before the
fun.
playoffs.
Yeah.
How about we move on to a deal that doesn't involve one of the three of us? That sounds good. Uh, we got the Cubs and the Rangers hooking up for another huge name. The Rangers, who had been dangling Jose Ramirez pretty much since he won him in the auction, but I couldn't really tell if he was serious or if it was in jest, but clearly it was serious because he packs up Ramirez with a 12th round pick in the currently still ongoing MILB draft and $15 of salary cap space to help afford Jose Ramirez. Sends him to Chicago, the Cubs, for Ronnie Acuna's little brother, Luis Angel, Christian Pash, Hyunjin Ryu, David Bodie, and again, traveling Dylan Moore. Guys, I don't know what I think of this deal offhand. I don't know what I think about this deal. Why don't one of you guys take it for me?
Go ahead, Duke.
Well, I know I'm going to have a different perspective on this than Jeff. So, like I said, it's good that we're both on here. I love this deal for Sam and the Rangers simply because this is another one of the rare deals we've had where somebody's been able to flip a really high dollar player and fill a bunch of holes, and no pun intended. And I mean, I think Sam's flipped at least a couple of these guys since then. I think he's flipped Pash. I think was he in the Eloy deal?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, Pash was in the Eloy deal, and Moore was in the Castillo deal. So, right. Sam, got a lot of, I think, quality depth, and then he actually flipped some of that to get players, not as good as Jose Ramirez, but he's made his team better since then. So, this is a great deal, I think, for Sam just because of the depth. But, on the other hand, the Cubs and Frank got potentially the number one point scorer in fantasy this year. So, Jose Ramirez is a stud. I think he's led. He's been the number one point scorer at least once or twice already. So it was obviously a big deal for both of them. It completely transformed their teams respectively. So I gave Sam an A- because I love what he got back and that he was able to use that to acquire Castillo and Eloy, also from the Cubs. And I gave Frank a B-. He got the best player, but he had to give up a lot to get him. So that's my take.
Yeah, I actually am not going to disagree with you. I love this trade for Sam as well. I think Ryu is perennially underrated by everybody. I saw somewhere he's got the lowest ERA, the second lowest ERA in the last couple of years. He's just been a solid performer, and I think Cubbies actually got him in the Bauer deal, and then flipped him into this one.
Yeah, the Cubs dealt Bauer too. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it does make the Rangers a much more balanced team. And the Cubs, they got J-Ram. He's in our division now. That sucks. Such a great player. If he explodes, we're obviously gonna have head-to-head matchups a lot with the Cubs. And if he explodes one week, which he will, he's a guy that just gets hot and steal 5 bases and hit 5 homers in a week. That's J-Ram. And if that's a week where we're playing them, that's enough to carry the Cubs by themselves. So I give the Rangers a slightly higher grade. I give them an A-, and I give the Cubs a B-. I wonder if maybe he could have left Acuna or Pache out of the deal. Maybe an extra player is thrown in from my point of view. maybe Cubs could have kept one of those guys, but I do like the trade.
Yeah, I gave him. I still, man, it's tough. This is tough for me. I like Ryu. I like all the pieces that Sam got back, but J-Ram at, well, 54 is not, it's not cheap, but it's for a guy, and I feel like we've said this a few times already, and we're only on the sixth trade, for a guy that could be the #1 point scorer, that feels cheap. Like relative to the guys in the $70 range and the $60 pitchers. That feels cheap for a guy that could easily be the #1 bat and #1 point getter overall. But Sam made his team markedly better with getting all these getting a lot of at bats. Bodie's going to play. He might not start every single day, but he's going to play. I know that the Braves love the Drew Waters Pash future outfield, so I mean he's super highly regarded. I guess I'll just give them both a B right now. I hate to be wishy-washy about it, but I just don't. As much as I look at it, I just don't know what I think about it.
Yeah, I think the other thing to factor in here is the context of their team, of their rosters when they made this deal. And even before this deal, Frank had a lot of empty roster spots. And then he traded away. I'm not saying all these guys are studs, but he traded away a lot of
still 5 players,
viable players that are gonna, they're gonna be playing every day and they're gonna be putting points up every day for one player, and just kind of left his, emptied his roster even more. So I will say Frank's made a couple good deals since then. To address that issue, but when he made this deal, it kind of he put himself in kind of a hole, I think, which is why I gave him a little lower grade than Sam.
And Frank's total name value just in the trades that he's made is pretty incredible. He's I'm looking at that spreadsheet you sent me and just kind of all the deals that involve the Cubs, and it's just big name after big name. This guy's wheeling and dealing, man. Okay, let's. We're getting towards the end here.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying.
No, go ahead.
Adam, he commented this time last year. Everyone was hitting on J-Ram. Was that last year or the year before?
I feel like it was the year before when he couldn't he not hit the curveball or something for a couple months. He was having a real bad time with the curveball, and then turned into J-Ram again.
Yeah, and obviously the lineup in Cleveland is definitely taking a hit with Lindor leaving, but it's still J-Ram. He's going to put up a lot.
Yeah, he's the kind of bat. It's kind of like saying Arenado without Coors, like J-Ram without Lindor. He's not a guy that. For those couple months when he couldn't hit the off-speed stuff, it seemed like maybe he was, but he's not a guy that needs fastballs to feast on or anything. He's a complete hitter.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Moving down the list here, we've got Tony's Marlins again, and Sam's Rangers. A big time prospect. Sam takes Casey Mize, and once again, Dylan Moore, pack your bag. I mean, this guy can't even get a hotel room in the places that he's staying. Frequent flyer mile, Dylan Moore, and sending him for Luis Castillo. Castillo gets moved again. I'm kind of surprised how many times he's been bounced around for as highly coveted he seems to be. Personally, I'm the risk-averse guy. I know I was the Mackenzie Gore. I traded for Mackenzie Gore, but then I immediately turned around and flipped him. This essentially, I don't look at Dylan Moore. I mean, I know Tony valued him. He likes the flexibility that he brings, and he was looking for multiple pieces for a guy. But I look at this really as just Mize for Castillo, and I like the Castillo side. I have to like the Castillo side better. I don't know. I don't know what Tony. Maybe he's high on Mize. Maybe he's really high on Mize. But you already gave away Gore. So are you that much higher on Mize than you were on Gore to give? Gore for Castillo in the first place. I don't know. I love the deal for Sam, of course, but Tony's got me scratching my head a little bit on this one.
So, yeah, I mean, Mike let it be known that he was just going to sell all of his high-priced guys. It's just just like the real Marlins do after they win a World Series, they sell all the big names, and that's what Tony's been doing. It started with the Arenado and was it Jordan trade, I think, like right at the start, and this was the final one, the final piece that he was selling. And when you talk to Tony, he wanted a team with all controllable talent that he could kind of keep together for a few years. He wants to be able to offer all of his guys contracts, and the only way that he kind of saw that he could do that mathematically is if he just ships them all, even if it's for less value on its face than they're worth. And in my opinion, I mean, Luis Castillo is worth more than Dylan Moore and Casey Mize. Mize, obviously, when he was coming up, he had a ton of hype. People were like, "This is the next Roger Clemens with his crazy splitter and everything." And he laid an egg last year. He got hit hard, and I mean, maybe he'll be able to put it together. He certainly has a lot of pedigree, but we don't. At this point, he's a big unknown. And it's a worthwhile gamble for Tony to take to see if Mize could turn into an ace. He was certainly touted as that in the minors. Hyped just as much as Mackenzie Gore is right now. Mize was hyped that much 2 years ago.
Yeah, first overall pick. I mean, hard to get
absolutely.
more hype than that.
And sometimes it takes pitchers a little while to find their footing. So, if Casey Mize lays another egg, you probably cut him and move on. But I do love this trade for Sam. I think Castillo is awesome. His metrics show that he should be even better than he has been. He could easily be top 10 pitcher in the league, if not better. And I would give the Rangers an A on this one, and the Marlins a C+.
That's exactly what I had, actually. What do you say, Duke?
So yeah, obviously Castillo. Honestly, I think Castillo could easily win the NL Cy Young this year. I talked to Tony for like 3 days to try to work out a trade for Castillo. We actually had like an agreement, and then we both went to bed, and I woke up and I just had a bad feeling about it, so I kind of backed out of it. But I love Castillo. I think this is a great trade for Sam. I also understand what Tony's trying to do. Just kind of like what Jeff already discussed, as far as having a more balanced team with controllable salaries. But Mize is like, I think $17, and that's a really high salary for somebody who kind of sucked last year. And I think Mize eventually is going to be fine. He's going to be a good pitcher, but he's not an ace. He might not even be like a number 2 or number 3 moving forward. So, like Jeff said, it's worth a risk if that's what Tony wants to do. And as soon as I saw this trade, I knew that Tony wanted Kingery just based on our prior discussions. So I think, as soon as I saw this, I offered him Kingery for Moore, because not that I think that Moore's that much better than Kingery, but I like I said earlier, I like the multi-positional eligibility. So 14 minutes after this trade, I got more from Tony for Kingery. So
if you were just talking to Tony, you probably knew that he was interested in Kingery, I bet.
Oh yeah. The Kingery was the main piece he wanted for Castillo. So I knew that he wanted Kingery, so I was able to swing that right after this deal. But I gave Sam a B+ and Tony a B-, because I do think it makes both their teams better for what they want to do. So it's another win-win. I think maybe if Tony had waited a little while longer, he could have gotten more for Castillo, but he's doing what he wants to do. He's getting the players he wants. So,
that's fair. I guess it wasn't really fair to me to say, well, I take more out of this deal, because he did turn around and flip more for a guy that he really wanted. So, it's for me to discount more completely in that deal. That's not really fair, because he did turn him into somebody that he really – and if I'm, flipping a coin, I like Kingery. Moore does have the twice as much positional eligibility, but I like Kingery. I don't think we've seen his best. He he was one of those first guys that got like the big extension before he had played in the majors, I think, right? They gave him like 26 million before his like clock truly started. So I think we still have the best of him to see yet, hopefully. So yeah, I shouldn't have discounted
No, I
Dylan
think
Moore in that
Kingery,
deal.
in 2019, Kingery was really good, and he had COVID last year. So and he was symptomatic. So really last year you can't really factor that in for Kingery at all. So
That's kind of scary. He's one of the people that like showed symptoms, and nobody knows how that's going to affect
yeah.
like elite athletes, down the line with lung capacity and stuff. I mean, baseball maybe not as much of a big deal that would be for like, maybe it's like basketball or hockey or something where you're constantly moving, but still, I mean, who knows how that's going to affect a ball player.
Same with like Jeff's boy Erod. He had like the myo.
Yeah, the heart shit. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm high on him this year as like a late round pitcher that just had 200 strikeouts when his last healthy season, which was 19. I'm real high on him.
Yeah, he was great in 19 for
Yeah.
sure. Like
Yeah,
19 and 6, something like that. His record was incredible.
Yeah, he was great through 200 innings, 200 strikeouts. Give me that. All right, kind of the last one we had, definitively that we wanted to talk about on the list. 3 straight. Sam's Rangers again getting in on the action. He wasn't big in it early, but now he's mixing it up. He is going to send Patrick Corbin, who he probably shopped to just about everybody. The recently acquired Christian Pashy, and Alex Reyes. As a Cardinal fan, you don't need to explain frustration. Just say Alex Reyes. Sends them to the Cubs again, to the north side for Eloy, who has also bounced around a little bit now. Duke, what do you think about this deal?
This was another win for Sam, I think. It ended up being a good deal for Frank for the reasons that I previously discussed. But Sam, obviously, we all know, because Sam makes us well aware that he has all these SPs that he's like willing to trade. And that was his, talking to Sam, that was his strategy during the draft, was to get as many SPs as he could, because he believed that they were going to be a valuable trade commodity. And I think it's kind of paying off for him. So I think he really regretted paying up for Corbin in the draft. I'm not really looking too much into Corbin's season last year. He was really bad, but the
velo drop is scary, man. That's a real velo drop. That is worrisome to me, at least.
It's scary, but he's probably still going to pitch a ton of innings this year, which is valuable in this format. And if he sucks, it's not like he's under a contract or something like that. You don't have to extend him next year. And Frank's got a lot. He's got to fill all these empty roster spots. So, a lot of risk here between Corbin and Reyes for different reasons. But, I think Reyes had almost as many walks as innings pitched last year. He was, at least he was pitching. He was healthy. So
yeah, at
that's
least he's
good.
throwing. Yeah.
Yeah. But wasn't particularly effective with all those walks. So we'll see what he can do going into a full season. But obviously Sam got the best player. Jimenez is a stud. He's young. I think he's 24. He's like $40 or something like that. So potentially extendable next year. So I gave Sam a B+ and Frank a B- for all the reasons I stated. I think it still makes both their teams better, but obviously for different reasons.
Yeah, I think it's hard. It's hard to look at this trade without the other one that went down between these two teams right next to it, which was Sam sending Jordan Alvarez to the Cubs for Framber Valdez.
That's a great point.
Because that one looks like a clear overpay to me for Framber. That one is tilted very heavily towards the Cubs. Jordan's worth a lot more than Framber, and Jordan's kind of a similar value to Eloy in my mind.
Framber's salary, I think, is like $29, which is really high for Framber, in my opinion.
Absolutely. But if you say Jordan and Eloy are kind of similar players that went back and forth, so really we're trading Framber for Corbin, Pache, and Reyes. That's kind of how I view the trade, and I like Framber better than Corbin. I think Corbin's probably done. Maybe he'll have a comeback, but this is big time shades of Bumgarner for me. Just kind of this guy who was good, who just lost it, and of course I love Alex Reyes. You're right, Duke. He has his issues. He kind of is Carlos Martinez 2.0 in a lot of ways, but Cardinals fans still believe that this guy can crack the rotation this year and be a force, And in fact, if the Cardinals are going to be good this year, that's probably what has to happen. And if I combine the two deals, to me, I give them both a B plus. But for the Eloy deal specifically, I think I would give Sam the higher grade just because Eloy's a great player. I like him even more than Jordan personally. I think if it all comes together, Eloy could easily be an MVP candidate and could be a every year first rounder in fantasy. And I believe
that lineup that he's going to be hitting right in the middle of for the next. He's on a pretty long deal, right? He signed like a 7 or 8 year deal like not long ago. He's just going to feast in the middle of that lineup. He's going to be so good.
Right.
Oh man.
What do you think, Alan?
Yeah, I as a Cardinal fan, I guess I was looking at Alex Reyes a little bit. I was kind of surprised that he's still only 26. It seems like we've been talking about and waiting for this guy forever, and he's only thrown 72 major league innings. So the potential is still there. The strikeout stuff, of course, is still there. He throws. I don't know if he touches triple digits anymore, but he throws hard. But the command isn't there. But he could turn if he has the year that guys like us have been waiting for him to put together. He's going to look like a steal on what was probably more of like a toss-in piece to that deal. Overall, though, I gave Texas B plus A. I gave Chicago a C plus. I am off of Corbin. I couldn't be more off of it. He might be like the pitcher I'm off of the most, if that makes sense. Like it's like shades of Bumgarner as a lefty that lost the velo and stuff. But at least we knew what happened to Bumgarner. He wrecked the motorcycle or whatever the hell it was. Like there was a definitive like corollary to the velo drop and stuff. Corbin keeps throwing innings. If he's hurt, he's not, he's showing it in the velo drop and stuff, but there's been nothing that said he was hurt. So I don't know if that makes him more worrisome or less, but I'm super off the guy. And I love Eloy. I love the deal for Sam. When he did get in there and mix it up with these trades, he might have overpaid for Framber a little bit. I don't remember where I had Framber in my initial ranking.
Sam's team has gotten dramatically better in the last 2 days. But he was trying to trade with me for a few guys, and I was looking at his roster and just wasn't really super interested in a lot of guys he had. But in the last couple of days, he's completely shuffled things, and he's
really turned it around.
I don't know if he can catch Seth, because Seth's team's just so top heavy and has so many stars on it. But the AL West will be a real battle, because the other teams out there are good too, honestly. So I'm really interested to watch how that one plays out.
Yeah, it's going to be an incredibly fun season. Yeah, Framber I had my 42 coming in. So, in that same range of pitchers, I had him with Musgrove and Tristan McKenzie and Paddock and kind of like guys like that. Actually had Corbin a few spots above him, but I've talked myself out of that. I think
yeah.
I just can't do it. I just can't. I'd rather give me Strasburg if I'm taking like a risky guy on the Nats. Give me Strasburg every single time.
Ironically, I think nobody hated Corbin more than Sam. So
another one of those like instant buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
But you know what? That probably wasn't the first guy that talked to him about Corbin. He didn't deal him to the first guy that came along. He bided his time a little bit and tried to turn it into it. So, you can't argue with that. You can't argue with the results. So yeah, guys. I mean, that was we didn't quite keep to the hour that we wanted, but a lot of good stuff there for the few deals, and I don't think they're going to stop anytime soon. The trades don't show any sign of slowing. Hopefully, maybe we'll hit a lull, where the action will slow down. Maybe we hit 200 trades by the start of the season. I'm sure after the picks kind of stop getting shuffled back and forth, that'll slow down a little bit. But
I think after Fabapalooza, a lot of teams will have more full rosters, and we'll see some more movement then as well.
Yeah,
Fabapalooza is going to be insane.
Yeah, we're gonna sit and do this same thing and marvel over John Lester going for somebody's entire budget and Anthony Bass going for double digits.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna break Fantrax.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting out of that unscathed. I feel like the guys like that I mentioned earlier, the Tigers and the Yankees and like your super deep teams that don't have to dip their toes into that pool. They're gonna sit back and laugh, but those of us that have to jump into it, it's gonna be messy. You're gonna come out spending a huge chunk of your budget, or you're gonna come out with no players.
Right.
And some of these guys are gonna risk having to, forcing to start a guy that's definitely gonna give you a 0 in these slots, and that's not how you want to start a season.
I mean, and what you bid on Fab is the player's salary. And
yeah,
I said earlier that in-season dollars are different than auction dollars. Well, Fab dollars are different too. And there's going to be some guys that are going to go for, $8, $10 salaries that are not worth anything close to that. And you wouldn't, but that's what you're going to have to pay if you want to get them. And I know that I mentioned that in the chat room, and some people were kind of like, look at Jeff trying to get us to bid more than we have to. And I'm really not. I honestly believe that. And I myself, I'm looking through the list, and there's a couple players out there that I would really like to have. And I'm kind of weighing what I'm going to need to bid on them. And it's not pretty, but if I want these guys, I'm going to have to, come correct.
You have guys like Tyler who've been trading draft picks for 2 weeks. How many Fab dollars does Tyler have? Like over 80 now?
Yeah, he's gonna run the
ton of money, and he can have anybody he wants during Fabapalooza. Right. That's who you're competing against.
God, yeah. I don't. I've got my list of guys. I clicked the star on their names on tracks, so I wouldn't forget about them. But then when I kind of sit down and think of my 53 Fab dollars, how much do I want to put on? I guess I don't want to give away anything, but how much do I want to put on player X? And then that's about as far as I get, because I just don't know. I'm used to doing this in a 12 or a 15 team league. But now there's like 12 or 15 teams that also need this same guy, like at a minimum. So
that's why I've seen you, Alan, drafting a few of the minor league contract guys.
Yeah.
Just so you don't have to, just so you can get them outside of Fabapalooza. I did the same thing.
Just hoping, just crossing my fingers. And
I got Jose Martinez and Hernan Perez, who are both, bit players that may or may not earn anything, but I get them outside of Fabapalooza, and that's kind of why I drafted them.
Zach Pop was one of those guys that I used in the Garrett Cole deal. He was a guy that I was just hoping to get major league innings out of and not have to use Fab on him. Right. And I even told Jake, I'm like, man, I kind of, as weird as it sounds, I was kind of not leaning on Zach Pop, but I was going to rely on him to be in there. But, I'm not, I told him I'm not going to let Zach Pop stop me from getting Garrett Cole. So it was easy enough to toss him in.
You're in a deep league with a lot of smart people when you have guys trolling the Rule 5 draft. The snag players in the minor league draft.
Yeah, this is going to be a great league. This is going to be so much fun. I love it. I love seeing all the action. I enjoy talking to you guys about it. Thank you very much for taking a big chunk of your Friday night to nerd out, and we'll do this again soon.
All right. Thanks. It's fun talking to you guys. We'll see you.
Yeah, let's get out of here. Thanks, guys. Till next time.